My name is Rachel. I'm 38 years old. And I haven't said this out loud to anyone, but I think I don't recognize my life anymore. I don't mean that in some dramatic, movie trailer way. I mean it in the quiet, aching way that creeps in slowly, when you look at your reflection one morning and realize the woman staring back feels like a stranger. Not because she's older. Not because she's tired. But because somewhere along the way, she stopped feeling wanted. I've been with my husband, Mark, for 12 years. Married for 7. We weren't one of those whirlwind couples. We built something. We took our time. The first few years felt like magic, not the reckless kind, but the kind that makes you believe you've finally found your place in the world. I remember when even brushing against him in the kitchen felt like electricity. His hand on the small of my back used to make me feel like I was the only woman in the world. And I'd catch him watching me, like he was still trying to memorize me. But now he kisses me goodnight the way someone turns off a light switch. Quick. Automatic. Eyes half on his phone. I still kiss back, out of habit. But sometimes I pause before I do, just to feel the silence. Just to wonder how we got here. It didn't happen all at once. That's the cruel part. If he had screamed or cheated or slammed doors, maybe I could have pointed to something and said there, that's where we broke. But no. It was small things. Like the way he'd start scrolling while I was talking. Or how he'd hold me in bed like I was a pillow instead of a person. There was one night, I remember it too clearly. We were lying in bed after dinner, a glass of wine between us, feet tangled under the sheets. He pulled me close, his arm draped across my waist. It should have felt sweet. But his hand didn't move. He didn't say anything. It felt like he was holding me because he was supposed to, not because he wanted to. I looked at his face in the soft glow from the hallway light. His eyes were closed, his breathing even. And I knew he wasn't thinking about me. Not really. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, trying to remember the last time I felt truly seen. We still go through the motions. Date nights that feel like chores. Texts that say love you but mean don't forget the dry cleaning. And I still smile. Still show up. Still play the role. But inside? Inside, it feels like something important is leaking out of me. Maybe it's desire. Maybe it's intimacy. Maybe it's just that unbearable sense that you're standing next to someone you love and still feel completely alone. I'm not perfect. God knows I've shut down in my own ways. There are nights I pretend to be asleep so I don't have to face the silence between us. I buried myself in work. In books. In anything that gives me something to hold on to. But nothing compares to the moment that really woke me up. It was just a Tuesday. Rainy. He was making coffee. I walked up behind him, wrapped my arms around his waist, and pressed my cheek between his shoulder blades. And he stiffened. Not because he was startled. But because he wasn't in it. He turned and smiled, that polite, practiced smile. Kissed the top of my head like I was a child. And I remember thinking, that's it. That's the moment. That's when it changed. It wasn't even what he did, it was what I didn't feel. No heat. No ache. No us. Just two people trying to remember how to pretend. And the worst part? I don't know how to ask for what I need anymore. Or if he even sees what's missing. And maybe that's why what happened next, the moment she walked in, wasn't just shocking. It was inevitable. Mark's a high school history teacher. The kind students actually remember. Passionate, funny, the type who throws his arms around old maps and tells stories like he lived them himself. He's loved. Respected. And in the classroom, he comes alive. I used to sit in the back during open house nights, watching him command the room with this unshakable confidence. That version of him, the energetic, engaged, deeply present man, I fell in love with that guy. But somewhere between grading papers, early morning bus duty, and staff meetings that bled into dinner, something in him went quiet at home. He touches me often. I'll give him that. A hand on my back when he passes, his palm resting too low on my hip while I'm brushing my teeth, kisses that linger just a little too long when I'm clearly not in the mood. It's not aggressive, not inappropriate. But it's mismatched. Like he's trying to fix something physical when what I need is to be heard. There was a moment last week, nothing dramatic, just a crack in the pattern. I'd spent the whole day organizing his stepdaughter's birthday party, my stepdaughter now, I guess. Emma. She's 15. Brilliant, moody, allergic to sincerity in that way only teenagers can be. I'm not her mother, and she reminds me often, but we've carved out something quietly respectful over the years. That night, the balloons were still floating against the ceiling. I was exhausted. Drained. Everyone had left, the dishes were piled in the sink, and I was wiping cake off the edge of the dining room table when Mark came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. I leaned into him, expecting. I don't know. A thank you. A whisper in my ear. A real moment. But instead, he pressed his lips to my neck and let his hands wander. I tensed. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did and didn't care. Hey, he murmured, his voice low, suggestive. Come upstairs with me. I pulled away gently, just enough for him to notice. Mark. I'm really tired. He sighed, just barely, but enough. That familiar exhale of rejection, like I'd shut the door on us again. You're always tired, he muttered. And that? That cracked something open in me. I turned and looked at him, really looked at him, and said, I planned her whole party. Alone. You were late because of a department meeting. You didn't even help with the cake. And now, when all I want is a shower and a quiet bed, you want sex? His face twisted, not angry, but confused. Like he genuinely didn't understand. I'm trying, Ratch, he said, hands half-raised like he was fending off invisible blame. You said you missed us being close. I'm trying to be close. God. That made it worse. Mark, I whispered, closeness isn't just hands. It's not about touching me when I'm too exhausted to speak. It's about asking how I feel. It's about showing up for the little things. It's noticing when I'm not okay. He stared at me like I was speaking another language. And maybe I was. Because to him, physical affection is love. It's how he knows to connect. But for me, without emotional safety, it feels like pressure. Like performance. Like I'm being asked to open my body when my heart is locked shut. We didn't speak much after that. I took my shower. He fell asleep with the TV on, a rerun of some crime show buzzing into the darkness. I stood in the hallway for a long time that night, looking at the closed bedroom door. Wondering when we stopped opening up to each other. And what scared me most wasn't the tension. It was the slow way we were starting to settle for it. The next morning, he left early for school. Emma came downstairs half asleep, grunted something resembling a good morning, and headed to the kitchen. And I stood there alone, in the same house, in the same silence, and realized I'd never felt more misunderstood. Saturday morning. The light filtered through the blinds in that soft, golden way that used to make me feel warm inside. Mark was already in the kitchen, humming, flipping pancakes like he was trying to turn the day into something light-hearted. Like the week before hadn't happened. He greeted me with a bright smile, kissed my cheek. I smiled back, but something in me stayed stiff. We sat at the table together, just us. Emma was still asleep, thank God. He poured me coffee, made some dumb joke about how he was husband of the year, and I laughed, on cue. He reached across the table and took my hand. His thumb stroked the back of it gently. "Hey," he said, soft. "I was thinking, maybe tonight we can go out. Just you and me. Like old times." I nodded automatically. Then hesitated. "Yeah. Maybe." He squeezed my hand. "I miss us." I pulled away. Not abruptly, but enough. Reached for my mug like I needed both hands to lift it. He didn't say anything, but I saw the flicker in his eyes. That little bruise of rejection he's gotten so used to wearing lately. Later that night, after dinner, we were on the couch. A movie played low in the background, something neither of us were really watching. I felt his arm around me. Safe. Familiar. But also, expectant. He leaned in, kissed the side of my neck. His lips were warm, and I really tried, to be present. To respond. To meet him there. But instead, I froze. Not visibly. Not enough for him to pull away. But inside, I was miles away. His hand slid down to my thigh. He pulled me closer. I let him. My body obeyed, but my mind screamed, no. Not like this. Not when I still feel invisible. "Mark," I whispered, gently pushing his hand back up toward my waist. He paused. Looked at me. "What?" I forced a smile. "I'm just not in that headspace right now." He didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then, "It's always something lately." That hit harder than it should have. I looked away. "I told you, I'm trying. But I can't just flip a switch." He stood up suddenly. Not angry, just hurt. Walked to the kitchen. I stayed on the couch, guilt swirling like acid in my chest. I didn't want to shut him down. But I couldn't keep giving him my body while feeling like my heart was on mute. A little while later, I got up, joined him in the kitchen. He was leaning against the counter, arms crossed. "I'm sorry," I said, quietly. He looked at me. Really looked. "Do you even want me anymore?" That question vetted me. Because the truth? I did. I do. But only when I feel connected. When I feel seen. I couldn't say all that without sounding like I was blaming him. So I stayed quiet. He stepped forward, gently placed his hands on my hips. His eyes searched mine. And when he leaned in to kiss me, I let him. But my lips barely moved. He pulled back, confused. And I flinched, just slightly, when his hand slipped lower and gave a playful slap to my backside. Something he's done 100 times before. But this time it felt off. Like pressure. Like expectation. I stepped away, pretending to grab something from the fridge. He didn't follow. And as I stood there, staring blankly at the orange juice I didn't want, the thought formed fully in my mind, clear, bitter, painful. Why does everything have to turn into sex? It was a Sunday. Late afternoon. One of those overly still days when the house feels too quiet, like it's holding its breath. Mark had made a reservation. Candlelit Italian place downtown. One of those "let's try again" dinners. He shaved, wore the shirt I once said made him look like someone in a perfume ad. I even curled my hair, mostly out of guilt, not hope. The drive was quiet but polite. He talked about work. I nodded. We laughed about Emma rolling her eyes at everything we said. It all felt rehearsed. Like actors reading a script we knew too well. We sat by the window, string lights glowing above, the kind of place where couples toast anniversaries and sip wine slowly. Mark reached for my hand across the table. And I let him. but the whole time, my chest was tight. Because I could feel it building. The weight of every untouched conversation, every kiss that asked too much, every night I turned my back and cried quietly into my pillow. Then came the moment. The server had just taken our plates. Mark poured the last bit of wine into my glass, leaned closer, and said, "I've been thinking maybe we should plan a weekend away. Just us. No distractions." He said it so sweetly. So earnestly. And I broke. It started with my eyes. A sting. A blink. And then the tears came, quiet at first, until they weren't. Mark's eyes widened. Hey, what's wrong?" He reached across the table again, but I pulled away. "I can't," my voice cracked. "I can't keep pretending this is enough." "What?" he asked, startled. "Rachel, we're trying. I thought this was good. I thought tonight was good." I wiped at my face, but the crying got worse. Raw. Ugly. The kind that comes from way too much holding it in. "It's not just tonight, Mark," I said, voice rising. "It's every day. It's feeling like I'm not seen unless you want something. It's not being touched for a week and then suddenly you're grabbing my ass like that makes everything okay. It's being kissed when I'm numb. It's me feeling invisible unless I'm naked." He leaned back, stunned. People at nearby tables turned. I didn't care. I feel like a body you remember to notice when you're bored or horny. I'm trying to survive this version of us, and you're over here planning date nights like that fixes the actual problem. He was red now. Eyes dark. Jaw tight. "So what, Rachel? I'm just some selfish husband now? You think I want to feel you flinch when I touch you? You think it doesn't kill me every time you shrink away like I disgust you?" "That's not what I said." "It's what you meant." "No," I said, quieter now. "What I meant is that I'm starving for emotional intimacy, and all I get is your hands." He stared at me. Shook his head. "You could have just said that." I laughed bitterly. "I did. A dozen different ways. You just didn't hear me." He threw his napkin on the table, stood up, then sat right back down like he didn't know where to go. He wasn't angry, not really. Just wounded. Scrambling. The rest of the dinner was a blur. The drive home silent, except for the occasional sniffle from me and the tight sound of him clearing his throat. We got inside. I went straight to the bathroom. Locked the door. Slid down to the floor. And I sat there for a long time, the tiles cold under my bare legs, my chest hollow. That scene, me crying at a dinner table, shouting truths I never meant to say out loud, that wasn't who I wanted to be. But it's who I was now. And the worst part? Right after I yelled at him about using my body to feel close. I wanted to open the door. Crawl into bed beside him. Apologize. Touch him. Be held. Because even when we're broken, I still ache for him. But now, I didn't know if he would want that anymore. And I hated that I had become the woman who pushes love away, then begs for it back. The days that followed felt like the world had dimmed just slightly. Not dark, not dramatic. Just muted. Mark didn't slam doors or give me the cold shoulder. He was kind. Civil, but the easy familiarity between us had vanished, replaced by an eerie politeness that felt worse than shouting. We moved around the house like strangers with shared rent. He made coffee in the morning. Didn't ask if I wanted any. I passed him in the hallway, and he'd nod, sometimes force a smile, like we were neighbors, not lovers. I missed him. God, I missed him in the smallest ways. His voice in the shower, singing badly. The way he used to flick my ponytail just to annoy me. His hand on the small of my back when we crossed the street. But every time I thought about reaching out, something inside me froze. The memory of his face at that restaurant, confused, hurt, stopped me cold. One night, I found him on the porch, sitting alone with a beer. He looked tired. Older. His eyes were trained on the quiet neighborhood street, but his jaw was tight like he was holding something in. I stood at the door for a long time, just watching him. He didn't even know I was there. I thought about stepping outside. Sitting next to him. Saying something simple, like hey. But I didn't. Instead, I turned off the kitchen light and went upstairs. I lay in bed alone that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what part of me broke so badly that I couldn't walk 12 steps to save something I used to fight for. He wasn't the villain. He'd always shown love the way he knew how, touch, presence, planning nights out. But he hadn't known how to see the deeper ache in me, and I hadn't known how to help him see it without making him feel like he was failing. We were both hurting. And neither of us knew how to say it. A week later, I caught a moment I wasn't meant to see. Emma had come home from school, slamming the front door in that teenage way that made me want to scream. I walked into the kitchen and stopped short. She was sitting at the table, Mark standing behind her, hands on her shoulders. He was telling her something, softly, seriously. She rolled her eyes at first, then nodded. Something about her face shifted. And then, just for a second, she reached up and rested her hand on his. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't tearful. But it was love. Quiet and steady. And I thought, he can still connect. He still tries. So maybe it wasn't all gone. Maybe we weren't broken, just bruised. That night, I found him folding laundry in the bedroom. The silence was heavy. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed like armor. I saw you talking to Emma, I said quietly. You're good with her. He didn't look up. She's easier than you. It wasn't cruel. Just honest. I nodded. I know. A long pause. He finally met my eyes. Are we even trying anymore, Ratch? Or are we just waiting for it to fall apart? That question hung in the air like a dare. I swallowed hard. My voice shook. I don't want to lose you. But I don't know how to reach you without hurting you more. He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in days. And I saw it. The pain. The fear. The same questions I was carrying. Maybe this was the moment. The edge of the cliff. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. But I took a step closer. Sat beside him. Close enough to feel his warmth. And in my mind, I whispered the only thing I wasn't ready to say out loud, I still want us. That next morning, I made coffee. 2 mugs. Black for him, 1 sugar for me. Like I used to. Mark walked in, eyes heavy with sleep, and paused when he saw the second cup. He took it without a word. Sat across from me at the table like he was afraid to break whatever fragile thing had settled between us. I looked at him. Really looked. His stubble was uneven. He'd slept in the guest room again, though neither of us had said that decision out loud. He held the mug in both hands. Staring into it like it could explain what we'd become. I've been thinking, I said softly. Maybe we need help. Someone neutral. A counselor. I don't know. Mark didn't respond right away. He just kept staring into his coffee. Then finally, I don't want to feel like a stranger in my own marriage. Me neither. And I don't want to touch you and have you flinch. I don't want to flinch. There it was. Simple. Raw. The closest we'd gotten to truth in weeks. He reached across the table. Not for a kiss. Not to fix anything. Just his hand, palm up, waiting. I slid mine into his. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a movie moment. But it was something. That night, I found him asleep on the couch again. Blanket bunched at his feet, TV still glowing. I stood there, unsure what to do. Part of me wanted to shake him awake, tell him to come to bed. The other part, the bigger part, just wanted to sit beside him and not feel alone anymore. So I did. I sat, gently pulled the blanket over his legs, and rested my hand lightly on his arm. He stirred a little, turned toward me in his sleep. And then, even half dreaming, he reached for me. His arm wrapped around my waist and pulled me close, like his body remembered something his heart was still trying to find. I let myself lean into it. Just for a while. No promises. No fixing. Just warmth. Contact. The start of something we'd have to rebuild from the ground up. And then, a noise. The creak of stairs. A shadow in the hallway. Emma. She froze at the bottom step, wide-eyed, clutching a towel and a bottle of shampoo. I remembered then, she always showered late on Sundays. She stood there, staring at us, her stepmother curled into her father's chest like a child seeking comfort. And I realized. This was what she saw. Not sex. Not scandal. Just two broken people holding on to each other, trying not to drown. And for some reason, that felt even more vulnerable. You know how people say love is a verb? That it's something you do, not just something you feel? I used to think that was just Pinterest wisdom, neat and clever but hollow. Now I think it's the truest thing I know. Because love isn't in the big gestures. It's not always found in date nights or flowers or anniversaries. It's in the way you look at someone when they're not speaking. It's in how you listen when they're barely holding it together. And sometimes, it's in how you stay, even when it would be easier to leave. When I first met Mark, I felt chosen. Not just loved, wanted. That feeling is intoxicating. It makes you soft in ways you don't realize until they start to harden again. But desire is fragile. And emotional intimacy, that's even harder. You can still be sleeping in the same bed and feel 1,000 miles apart. You can kiss someone and feel absolutely nothing. What they don't tell you is that it's not the distance that ruins you, it's the silence. The pretending. The fear of saying, this isn't working, because you're terrified that maybe they already know. I spent months pulling away from Mark, all while craving him in ways I couldn't name. I missed his jokes. His shoulders. His steadiness. I missed being able to look at him without immediately calculating what version of me he wanted that day. But instead of telling him the truth, that I felt lonely, undesired, and unseen, I let my silence grow sharp. I flinched. I avoided. I turned every touch into an accusation. And he didn't know what to do with that. He only had one language for closeness, touch. And when I stopped responding, he didn't pivot. He retreated. We both felt rejected. We both felt starved. And we both assumed the other one stopped caring. It wasn't true. It just hurt too much to ask, do you still want me, when the answer might be silence. But the moment Emma walked in, and I saw the look on her face, something clicked. She thought she was seeing something scandalous. And maybe in a way she was. Not because it was sexual. It wasn't. But because she saw me completely undone, clinging to a man I'd spent months pushing away, finally admitting through touch what I couldn't say out loud, I still need you. That moment wasn't shocking because of what she saw. It was shocking because, for the first time, I was being honest. We talked that night. Mark and I. Not perfectly. Not romantically. Just real. He told me he felt like he was losing me, and every time he tried to reach for me, I moved further away. I told him I didn't need his hands, I needed his heart. We both cried. We both said sorry. We both admitted we didn't know what to do next. But we agreed on one thing: we wanted to try. And that's the part no one celebrates. The trying. Because rebuilding isn't romantic. It's clumsy. It's slow. It means hearing things you don't want to hear and showing up anyway. It means admitting that love, real, lasting love, isn't just made of the highs. It's made in the lows. In the moments when you feel like giving up and choose not to. I don't know if we'll make it forever. I don't think anyone really does. But we're talking now. We're learning each other again. We've started asking better questions. Touching with permission. Listening with presence. And me? I'm learning that needing someone doesn't make me weak. That asking for emotional intimacy doesn't make me difficult. That a kiss should never feel like a transaction. So if you're listening to this, and you feel like something inside you is slipping, say something. Don't wait for a blow up. Don't wait to be walked in on, exposed, unraveling in someone else's arms. Say it now. Even if your voice shakes. Because silence doesn't protect love. It buries it. And you deserve to be seen, fully, messily, truly seen, while there's still time to be found.